Hi, all. It's me. Okay. So, over the time when I was sick, I did read an article about this guy who decided to go to college. He got a 4.0 in his first semester and then he dropped out. And he wrote this article about how he felt that college is a scam and that it just gets people into debt and all of this other stuff. And it's hard to say because there are some people who are never going to do well in college. And there are some people who really just need trade schools, and that works really well. Um, there's some things like IT that you don't really need to go to school for, but it's better if you do. A whole other, lot of jobs that you can get, with just either a trade school or, like going to get on the job training and all of that stuff. I, for one, loved college and I loved learning and I loved all the classes I had to take. And sometimes I think, oh my gosh, I took all of these like writing and rhetoric classes and a class on, it was in the religious studies program, but it was the psychology of religion and it was about the psychological influences in certain religions and like when you have something that's like not Zen, like Buddhism, where it's both a philosophy and a religion, you have a lot of crossover if you want to do something with psychology too. And all very interesting. I know one of my clients now, he hates high school. He's always hated school and he is not going to do well in college at all. So trade school for him would be great. Um, for me, I actually, I, as much as I loved college, I did not like high school. I didn't like elementary school. I didn't care for school. I went, and when there were problems with my family, I loved going to school because I wanted to be out of the house. And if there was any other way to be out of the house, I would have been out of the house. Um, but once I got to college and, I was fortunate enough, my parents did pay for it. However, I do want to add the stipulation that San Diego State, when I first started, was like $950 per semester for a full-time student. So they were not breaking the bank by paying for that. I think even now in my life, like if that's what was the cost of going to school, oh my God, I could do it so easily. Like that is not anything significant. I know now it's probably like 3,000 per semester, which is a little bit much. And I don't know if I would do it, but I know that like payment plans and all that stuff, like it would be like still semi doable. Um, so, whatchamacallit, like school wasn't that expensive. Things were like I loved going. I would go a lot because I don't know, it was more challenging and um like okay, so San Diego State had 40,000 students at the time. And I have to say that going to college for me was the most freeing experience that I ever had because no one in that school expected anything from me in those moments, like walking to class. Of course, my professors wanted me to do well and fit into their curriculum, so they were lecturing and everything, and I was writing a lot of papers, and taking a lot of tests, but like nothing was expected of me, and there is just something without many people so freeing, and I loved the experience, and I wouldn't be able to do what I do now without having that experience. And I think that if psychology was still going the way that it was before there were like established colleges for psychology, that it it wouldn't be good. Because what was happening when Freud was as Freud, there were schools, but like you could still become a psychologist if you had been in therapy for 4 years. And like therapy then was, I believe, 4 times a week, for like an hour or so. And like, and that's how you could learn to be a therapist. And I guess if that were something that people could do now, that would be great. But that's not something that people do now, and it's not something that would be helpful, because going to grad school for counseling and art therapy, it was a bunch of different philosophies and theories and everything. And once I got out, I got to figure out who I wanted to be and what I wanted to believe in, as far as like how I wanted my sessions to go, and all of that stuff. And as I've said before, I get to choose. As long as I'm within the law, I get to choose every other aspect of my practice. And there's something great about that. I don't think that would be the same if I only went to a therapist and then became a therapist, because I would just only learn from the one person. And that's not how I learn. That's not how it goes forward. Now, so like when I was in grad school, I had blowback from my family. My family was like, are you always going to be a student? Is this everything? Like, are you ever going to get out to the real world? So I know that some people, when they see the choice between work and going to college, and, admittedly, when I was in undergrad school, or when I was in undergrad at San Diego State, I did not know how to be an adult. And I was really scared, and I had, like, oh my gosh, unmanaged anxiety about everything. So when I did get a job, it was so anxiety provoking. Oh my God. It was like one of those things where it's like, I finally get to be an adult, but this is crazy. But I did it. And, I don't know if I could have paid my rent that way, but luckily I lived with someone. So, my half of the rent was like $600. And then, I had to like worry about all of the other stuff about getting food and everything. But, for the most part, things were fine. Really not too much, but there were times, especially when I started the practice, where I was very, very poor and bartered for my rent and a couple of other things, But for the most part, I'm out of that. I'm able to pay a majority of my bills. Some of them are still a little bit high, so I've had to like negotiate on some things. But doing fairly well. Let's see. But I know that there are plenty of people who are like, oh, like English degrees, fuck that shit. And, this gender studies or women's studies things, and fuck that shit. And it's like, the people who go into those majors don't think about what type of job they're going to get. And honestly, sometimes when you're that young, you don't give a shit. As I was graduating from San Diego State and going into grad school at Albertus Magnus, I had plenty of people who said, I'd only work with kids, I'd only work with autistic kids, or I'd only work with mentally ill kids. And that's actually not true to what I do. I don't work in a mental hospital anymore. I don't work with many kids anymore. I get to choose the kids who I work with. And, like if I don't have a good rapport with them, luckily their parents eventually like kind of cave into them. And so they don't come back, which I'm like, could be a good or bad thing. But, at some point it's like, that's pretty good actually, because I don't have to deal with, kids who aren't going to benefit from my therapy. And, had I listened to, well, what type of job can you get as an art therapist? And is there a job market for that? And, are you going to be able to find a job? And, how much are you going to be paid for this? Like, it was beyond my capacity to even think about that at that point. And, to have people who were like, you know, like talk to me. I didn't give a crap. There is nothing that was going to stop me from being an art therapist. And even when I was going through school and I was having trouble with some of the professors, like, no, I did not stop. I was going to be an art therapist. And that's basically what I am. I'm kind of steering away from that now because I do more talk therapy. But, when I have a client who really enjoys doing art therapy, like I enjoy doing art therapy. I love the way that it goes. I love how not easy it is, but like just I know so much about it, and like it really shines through for me in those moments. But as I'm saying, everyone is different. Sometimes the job that you want means you're going to be poor for a little bit, and then you're going to make a lot of money. Or you don't have to do that, and you can go into IT and you can do all these like really awesome things. I know one of my friends didn't go to college, and he made, I think, six figures the last time that I talked to him. Might have been a little bit less. I think he was either making 90,000 or he's making 120,000 now. But like, you can go into those things and do those things. And I think he went to like some IT school. So that's how he got into IT and got into these really awesome jobs. And I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but as I said, he was making like really good money for any, person, but especially for someone who had only graduated from college. All right, well, I better get going, and I hope this was helpful. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.